you could qualify for a NROTC program to take you to college. And so I applied for that, and I was lucky enough to get a NROTC scholarship. And so that sent me on my way through to the Navy. And of course, my uncle had flown B-24s in North Africa and Italy. And my dad had always wanted to be a pilot, but he had bad eyesight, and he was a observer in an L-5 in India and Burma during World War II. So obviously there was a lot of reasons for me to move on into aviation.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah, so I passed all the physicals and stuff, which is kind of important. It's hard to do sometimes. If you have any kind of defect at all, a lot of times they just won't accept you. So, there is obviously luck involved when you're applying for these types of positions. And then I had previous flight experience because I worked at an airport and actually had an old World War I pilot as my instructor. And I learned an awful lot from Lloyd, and he was a very competent instructor. He had flown in World War I, got transferred out because, of course, that was the war to end all wars. And then he later barnstormed, and then he flew the mail, and he was too old for combat, obviously, in World War II, so he was a civilian pilot instructor for the Army during World War II. And so he was a crusty old SOB when I got to know him, and that was in the 50s. But he was really a great instructor, and I learned a lot about him, and I think that a lot of times I owe my life to him because of the way he taught us. So he was a very, very experienced because of his background. Obviously, he had a lot of experience, and that really counts a lot of times when you're trying to learn how to fly.
Well, one of the things I can tell our audience that without a doubt, everybody in the squadron, in my opinion, considered you the best. Also, maybe the craziest, but the best pilot we had. I mean, you literally set the standard real high, and some of the things you did were truly amazing. Those long cross-Pacific flights that you did, not necessarily by the book, but Ken, I do a lot of emceeing gigs, and whenever I'm doing an Air Force deal, they always start bugging me because I'm Navy, and I said, look, guys, tell me when you've learned to fly, when you can land on an aircraft carrier at night. Tell us about your first carrier landing. That's got to have been a great experience.
Oh, yeah. We were in VT4, which was based at Pensacola. I was flying T2s. And you came down. I was in VT7 originally up at Meridian, Mississippi, graduated from the basic flying school, and then came down to we did air-to-air gunnery, and then we did flying on the boat. And so it was enjoyable doing the FCL, what they call the landing patterns, and practicing on the mirror before we got out there. And we had the same instructor. There were 4 of us that went out to the boat together, and so they set us up to do a couple touch and goes off the deck so that we'd kind of settle down. And then I came in for my first trap, and it just shocked the hell out of me. I mean, my knee board was sliding down to my feet. You just slammed into that harness so strongly, and of course it was an old 27 Charlie, the same type of boat that you and I had served on the Oriskany, because it was in Lexington. And so that is a short landing area, and so that thing strapped you down pretty good. And then something happened where what they do is they let the airplane roll back, kind of, and then they can knock the cable off the hook, and then they give you the come ahead and start forward. So I'm sitting there and we're kind of rolling back, and before I guess the guy got the cable unhooked, because of course there's a really tight pattern there. The next thing I know, the nose of the airplane's pointed straight up in the air. I'm going, what's this all about? I had no idea. And then finally, I guess they were able to release the cable enough, and the guy kicked it off, and the thing came back and slammed down. And when it did, it broke the nose wheel steering mechanism. So I had to launch and come back to Pensacola. Had to leave the gear down because they didn't want me to raise it in case it would have jammed or something. And so I only got my one trap the first day, and I think we had to get like 4 traps and to go on and go to advanced jet. And so I had to go out the next day and do it all over again, and successfully, fortunately for me. And, I was able to then continue on. But that was kind of an interesting first carrier landing.
Well, you talked about how your original instructor taught you so much. I'd like to know how the heck you got a bonnet on your fuel probe while in training.
Well, if you were ever to talk to John Rusin, who joined the squadron there in '67, that came over from the Forrestal, he would say, well, that I just had screwed it up. But in fact, John ended up telling me, actually, for the last 40 years, I believed, there's something that I did wrong. And he just told me the other day, actually, he had called me and explained that actually there was a spring in the unit that would, so that as you push the hose would then start to retract, because you had to push it in so many feet to be able to trigger the ability for it to transfer fuel. And he said that spring was broken, so that when I actually went to push the hose in, it wouldn't retract. So it ended up being a big, looping thing in front of me, and during that looping, it broke. And so the next thing I know, fuel's flowing over the canopy, flowing over me, and now it's accelerating the airplane. Even though I had pulled the power back, the airplane's starting to drive forward. Then the nose probe is being bent up. And then John then suggested maybe because the other students that are with me, eject. He's going, just pop your speed brakes, idiot. So I did. And the airplane just, of course, that caused a very quick difference between me and the airplane that was carrying the drogue. And I came running back, and it just popped that basket loose, and there it was sitting on my probe. So
in your
going
book,
back to Lemoore,
in your book,
there it is.
In your book, Our Lives on the Line, is that story plus a picture. And I want to tell people, you have written a terrific book. I so thoroughly enjoyed it. Diane started reading it. And is this available on Amazon, Ken?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's Our Lives on the Line, the Air War in North Vietnam. We're showing this on Facebook right now. So let's talk real quickly. You then went to the USS Oriskany and got
Correct.
started flying combat in 1966. That had to be something.
Correct.
And one of the things in your book, you talk about the rules of war. A lot of people don't really understand the history of the Vietnam Air War. So tell us real quickly about the rules of war in 66.
Well, the rules of war in 66 were, we were in what we would call normally a recce. We go for reconnaissance flights, and look for traffic that was moving supplies to the south, whether it was a train or a boat or a trucks. So we would really work like they had divided North Vietnam into 6 different route packs, and the Navy's responsibility were route pack 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6B, and which encompassed a great portion of North Vietnam. The Air Force had route pack 1, which they had fast facts working in that area, and that was right up against the DMZ. And then they had a portion up there that was part of Hanoi, where we all got to share in some of that in the next year. But in '66, we would put usually 2 A4s from our squadron and 2 A4s from our sister squadron into a route pack, and we would sit there and work as the 2-man team, one guy high to be able to roll in quickly, the other guy low, so he could spot if there was any action going on the ground. And so we were really actually fairly effective, and there at that point in time, that the threats were really only 37 millimeter guns that were just controlled by the gunners themselves. They weren't radar directed.
All right, let's do this. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the air war over North Vietnam, and we're going to talk about probably the worst fire since World War II that happened on the Oriskany. So this is Jim Blythe, Certified Senior Advisor, U.S. Navy veteran. My wife, Diane, she's got you going on Facebook. Tune in on Facebook, Alliance for the Brave. And we're going to be back with Ken Adams, again, talking about his great book, Our Lives on the Line, from Kenneth Mule Adams. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Alliance for the Brave. All right, Mule, you still with me?
I sure am. Yeah.
All right. Now, don't say anything that you don't want your mama to hear, because you're live on Facebook as well while we're doing the commercials on the radio. And
okay.
Because I have had that happen, and I don't have a drop button. But again, Facebook, this is the book that we're talking about with Ken Adams. And Ken, when we come back, we got to talk about how you got the call sign Mule. I'm not sure that's really appropriate, and maybe it should have been crazy. I don't know.
I kind of think I probably should have been crazy, yes, but it worked.
Yeah, and I can tell the people on Facebook that the way I met Ken is I got the opportunity. Our squadron got 4 tandem seat A4s, and they allowed some enlisted men to fly, so I got qualified down in Miramar. And so the first guy I was going to fly with was Ken Adams. And we go to the plane, and he looks at me and he says, I'm going to turn this plane inside out and backwards, and I'm going to make you throw up all over it and then clean it up. I said, yes, sir. So we get in, we take off from Lemoore, we cross the Sierras, we're into the bombing range up at Fallon, and you and our wingman just went nuts doing a simulated dogfight, for lack of a better term. And that was the most exciting thing. I mean, you were all over the sky, in and out of the clouds. You were just going nuts, upside down. About the only thing you didn't do is fly that plane backwards. And so then when we get back to Lemoore, you opened the canopy and looked back there and you said, Blythe, you didn't get sick. I said, no, sir. He said, you can fly with me anytime. I said, yes, sir. When are we going? and you basically got me fired up to get my pilot's license when I got out. And so some of the greatest experiences I ever had were flying with the Saints in the back seat.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime type thing, isn't it? I mean, it's very challenging, and you can't get into a jet hardly like that and not understand.
Hey, Ken,
Hey, Ken, hold still if you can, because your signal is going all over the map.
Yeah. Okay. Be careful with your cell phone.
Okay.
One of the really more memorable Mule incidents is when Leon, Brian, and I were flying back to Lemoore, and I think you were our wingman, and I look up, and you did a canopy roll, and basically gave me the fickle finger of fate as you went over the top of us.
Oh, I didn't do that, really.
That was just a figment of your imagination.
Yeah, you did a few other things too, but the statute of limitations has run out, so we're.
That's good to know.
Oh man, I mean, flying with all of you guys, flying with you especially, was always the most incredible experience, and I was very fortunate. Most of you guys didn't know, I flew every time somebody said, "You want to go?" And I kept a little logbook. I flew 160 hours in 4.5 months with you guys.
Really? That's good.
Okay,
That's
Captain
great.
Jim, we got to go here.
All right, Ken, we're going to be back on the radio in just a second, so hang with me.
Planes leaving the gate.
You're listening to Alliance.
Yeah, I got it.
Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Well, welcome back. This is Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran. Joining me in the studio, my beautiful wife, Diane. Take a look at us on social media, on Facebook, on allianceforthebrave.com. We're on, we're live, and we're going to be across the nation. Now, I'm talking with Ken, call sign Mule Adams, one of the best A4 pilots that ever flew in the Navy, and without a doubt, my opinion, one of the craziest. Ken, one of the things, though, that you have, a lot of people think, oh, man, the most dangerous thing that can happen in combat is being shot down, which was pretty bad. But you experienced firsthand the Oriskany fire in '66, which was the biggest fire since World War II, prior to then the Forstall burning. But tell us a little bit about your experience in surviving the '66 fire.
Well, I had fallen asleep, or was trying to fall asleep, because we'd been up all night, and part of the reason why the fire started was because the flares that were supposed to be used during the night were being downloaded and stored in the locker. And all of a sudden we heard this is a drill, this is a drill. And of course that means to me I'm just going to turn over and just go back to sleep. And just a few minutes after that, Scotty Wilkins, our air intelligence officer, comes running through and banged open the door, and he says, "We're all going to die, we're all going to die," and of course there was smoke following him in. So then that was when I realized that it was rather serious. And so I went ahead and started to get up, and we got all the guys together that were in the room. There were about 8 of us. Fritz Schrader and I knew a back way out of the room by going through a back door that would take us out to a open air sponson. And so what we did is I got everybody I got towels and wet down the towels so we could put them over our head. And we then had Fritz lead. Everybody was holding on to everybody else's belt, and I followed the last. So in case somebody got separated, at least we would have somebody that would know the way out, hopefully connected with these people. So we started crawling out, and of course, in the Navy, for people that have been in the Navy, know the word knee knockers, but it's a hole in a wall that stands about the size of your knee. So you have to keep crawling over those, and it was, of course, it was very black, very smoky. And Fritz got us out to the sponson. I made it back out there as well. And then I headed down to the hangar bay and met up with a young kid just he's grabbing this 3-inch fire hose, and he's starting to pull it out and walk towards the fire. And of course, you work with your shipmates when you're in trouble like that. So I joined him, and eventually we had 2 other guys join us, because once you turn that hose on, it's very strong. And I mean, it was when there was just the 2 of us on it, it was pushing us all over the place. A couple of guys jumped on with us, and we were able to start walking up towards the fire. And meanwhile, there's a sprinkler system that was built in that used salt water, and so the salt water is coming down on us, and the water is now starting to build up around our legs. Eventually, it got up to about knee height and was very hot. And at one time, I was at the front on the hose, tripped and fell. And the next thing I know, I'm in the water, and my leg was hooked on something. I couldn't seem to get out. And of course, the water had foam and various other contaminants in it, so it wasn't really a fun place to be. And I wasn't quite sure I was going to make it out. And then all of a sudden, somebody just pulled me up. Just kind of must have had superhuman strength. They grabbed my belt, and next thing I know, I'm up above the water, coughing and spurting. So,
oh man, what an experience! And I got to tell you, didn't we have 6 pilots killed in that fire and 46 people on the ship? So, tell you what, when we come back, we're going to talk more about flying in combat, what you did, and some of the other fun things, like you had an antique airplane. So this is Jim Blythe and my beautiful wife, Diane, and we are Alliance for the Brave with Ken Adams. Look up on Amazon his book, Our Lives on the Line. We'll be right back from this words. Ken, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going well, Jim. Thank you.
Oh,
I
man.
appreciate your doing this.
By the way, we are rebroadcast in Norfolk and Jacksonville. So we're in Navytown, USA. They're going to get to hear this as well. And again, I want to promote your book. I think this is huge. It's really a chronicle of your experience, which is an incredible thing. You did a great job, in my opinion. Oh, I was going to have a surprise for you, but unfortunately, we had a technical difficulty and couldn't get the second phone line to work. I was going to have Dave Carey call in because he's a real good friend of both of ours, and he's down in Georgetown.
Sure.
So he wanted me to tell you hi, and you guys go
Sorry, the
way
surprise
back.
didn't work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you didn't
Yeah.
talk about rules of war. So.
All right, as we go forward, Ken, let's start doing a little bit of the 68, 69, and I think a fun thing to talk about is the shellback initiation.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. And how's Betsy doing this morning?
Well, she's doing well. She's out running errands, so as we speak. So
I'm
we're
sorry
trying to keep the doggies quiet.
Yeah, I'm sorry she didn't want to stay in Hickle.
Yeah.
I know. Yes.
I got to tell you, reading your book and Facebook, again, here is the book. Facebook, this was one of the most fun reads I've ever had. But I think any kid who wants to study history about Vietnam ought to read this book. It's amazing. And you are on Amazon. Pete, do you have a website that people can go to and order your book, Ken?
Get back on your phone. Get back on your mic.
Well, can you hear it now?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
see, that's
yes,
perfect.
Sir. Okay.
Yeah, we have such horrible cell service here that in Florida that if I move the wrong position, then it drops out. So
Yeah. Well, wherever you are now, it sounds perfect.
okay, good. But yeah, one of the things that I really wanted to use the book for was the operations that took place during Vietnam. Navy's never done anything like that before or since, and so I think that it gives a really good perspective on the three different phases of war that I was in, which was 66, 67, and 68. Because each of those phases were completely different, and
all right,
we have with different results.
So this next segment is one of our biggest segments. When we get started on that, let's talk about your book, and let's talk about what you've got in the book and why this book is so important.
Okay, that sounds good. We can do that.
All right, and
The signal still good there?
it's not as good wherever you were just then. You know, don't go get you
How
a cup of
about
coffee. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm trying to figure out exactly where I need to be sitting here to
I
make sure
appreciate
that you get a good signal.
You got it.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna.
Yeah, it's most important to try to help you guys out here. I mean, you're helping me out.
Well, one of the things is we're going to send you the audio file, and you can get the Facebook, YouTube that we do for this. We're so thankful to be able to do that. And if you want to use that with your website to promote the book, that's this. Hopefully, that's an interview you.
Today's program is brought to you by Gear Services Web Design. Visit us on Facebook or online at allianceforthebrave.com. And now back to Alliance for the Brave.
Well, welcome back. You got Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran, also a member of VA 163, and I had the great opportunity to meet one of the greatest pilots that I ever knew, or anybody knew, who when it came to flying an A4. Ken Adams, call sign Mule. How did you get that call sign, buddy?
Well, actually, it started out as Animal, and that was named. Of course, they pick your name.
You got to move again.
That was Lieutenant Commander Morrison.
Yeah.
Who gave me that call sign, and then he died in the fire. And his replacement the next year was Lieutenant Commander Jerry Felterbreast, who came from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And Jerry couldn't say Animal; he called it Andy Mule. And then later on, we had an incident where I got hit by a missile because the F-8 pilot was trying to come out with the words Andy Mule, break right, and it was too long, so we shifted it to Mule.
Yeah.
And probably by then most people felt like I was probably a mule.
Well, yeah, you survived and survived a lot, because we lost, if I looked at the records correctly, overall we lost 12 pilots plus had 5 POWs. Dave Carey was a POW. John McCain was a POW. Stockdale was one of our POWs. I don't remember the other guys off the top of my head. But let's go back. Pardon?
Okay, go ahead.
All right,
So you got to get back in your
so
position.
let's talk about Our Lives on the Line, your book. Tell me why you wrote this, and you and I were talking about that on the break, how important this was about operations. Well,
the pace of operations for Vietnam, at least in the mid-'60s there, south and North Vietnam, that was the highest level of operations that the naval carrier work had ever seen in their history. World War II didn't have that level on a consistent basis, and of course, since then, it hasn't been on that kind of basis. And so I wanted to get the people to understand what kind of pressures the pilots were actually going through during that period of time. And since I had kept a diary, then it allowed me to go back through the diary, and I, was able to at least put a date with what we were doing and the what we were involved with, and of course the losses of all our guys, not just VA 163, but the other guys on the ship, VF 111, VF 162, and VA 164.
Okay.
No.
We've reconnecting with Ken in just a second, a little technical difficulty. In this book, the operations are so incredibly well lined out. So what we want you to take a look at is not a story so much about, which it is about one man, but a great story about what happened in the naval operations over North Vietnam. Ken, are you back with us?
He's still getting him.
Okay, we're still getting him connected. That's part of radio when you have somebody call in.
Radio.
So I joined the squadron in September of 1967, and that was the first time I met Ken Adams. So, Mule, let's go on and talk about what we were talking about before we had the technical difficulty.
Okay, the pace of operations and the people that we lost a lot of guys in Air Ring 16. Actually, I got a book called The Bloody 16, and it's a very accurate book about the losses we incurred, but it was because of the threats that we were flying into on a daily basis. And so I wanted to get out there that information, not only to the general public necessarily, but to other naval aviators, to let them know the kind of events we were having to go with, and to honor those that we lost.
It was an incredible experience that I had being on the Oriskany and then on the Hancock. One of the most amazing things that I ever saw happen was one of our pilots, Lieutenant Denny Earle, took like a small arms round through, if I remember correctly, his left foot and right leg just below the knee. And I don't know who it was that flew with him, but got him back to the carrier, and the guy landed the plane. I remember with the pilot's plane captain opened the canopy, said he'd never seen so much blood in his life. And Denny Earle survived. Matter of fact, we saw him in Reno. And that was the most amazing thing. I think every saint that could was up on the Widow's Walk watching him come aboard. And that was quite an experience.
Yeah. Denny's really...
You're going to have to relocate.
Yeah, we're still having trouble with your cell phone system.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
There you go. So one of the things, too, while we were on that cruise on the Hancock, we got to go to Singapore, but we got to cross the equator, which meant shellback. I'm a shellback now, and you're a shellback. Tell us a little bit about your shellback experience.
Yeah. I mean, going over all the mud and go through those tubes and seeing that very fat cheap smelling.
Relocate.
Oh, that was exciting, wasn't it? Is it better?
No, we can't. You're breaking up because you're in the wrong position, and I'm sure it keeps changing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
How's this?
That's good.
That's good.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, anyway, yeah. Is this still working?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, yeah, it was an enjoyable experience with the shellback, and it was really a fun thing to do with all of our troops. So, and we all became shellbacks after the end of that portion, and only about half of our squadron had been shellbacks to begin with. So,
what was your favorite part?
That kissing that belly, I guess.
Oh, you know what I heard? That poor guy, I think he was a first-class petty officer who was very overweight, and they greased up his tummy. He was without a shirt, greased up his tummy with like hog lard or something, Crisco. And he'd grab you by the ears and pull you into his tummy, and you had to kiss the royal baby, right?
That's right.
I heard that guy had terrible sunburn as a result of that little escapade.
Oh, yeah, you had to sit there for several hours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get all the troops through, for sure, yeah.
Well,
So
that was some of the fun stuff and some of the great places we got to go, where I met you in Sasebo, Japan. Beautiful town. Yokosuka, Japan. Singapore. Hong Kong. It was the Hawaii, the Philippines. It was all an amazing adventure.
yeah, it was. It was getting to the Far East like that was something that you could only appreciate, especially when we were young, and it was just very fascinating to see all these different cultures, so much different than our country.
I think that was amazing. Like you say, Denny Earl had been a missionary as a young child, so you got to experience more of going in country and experiencing some of that with Denny. That had to be great. Those opportunities were out there as well.
Right. It was great. And having traveled with him and understanding the rail system, it gave me a lot of confidence just to say, okay, even though I couldn't read the signs, I knew that if they were supposed to leave Yokota at 0100 and, go to Yokosuka, that be there in 20 minutes, I knew to get on and get off. I knew I'd be in the right city.
Well, my experience on going on the bullet train, when all of a sudden the signs no longer had English, I was really confused, and I looked at this young kid, and I said, Atsugi? Atsugi? And the guy looked at me and said, yes, sir, we'll be there in just a second. I got to tell you, there is nothing like traveling in foreign countries, and we had great opportunities to do that. And we had some great friendships we made. Leon Bryant.
Absolutely.
He's gone now, but Leon Bryant was a very close friend of mine. And if I had had a call sign, if I'd have been a pilot, it probably would have been CB for Crash and Burn, because he and I crashed one on the runway that was a tanker and burned that dude up. That was getting out of that alive was one of the most amazing experiences I had. So being part of the naval aviation has to be one of the greatest experiences anybody can ever want to enjoy.
I think so too. I mean, it put a lot of demands on you, and it made you grow up, and you got to learn how to control yourself and control your mind, and because you can get very, very nervous about making a night carrier approach, and you had to really calm yourself down and just say, okay, get through it. And so I think it was a great experience for me, and really matured me, although, like you said, that most people thought I was too crazy anyway. But
you were
what it is.
You were a character back then. You were a character with the world's greatest toy, an A4 Skyhawk. I mean,
that's right.
Let's face it. And you didn't really put that into the book to the level that you should have. I'm going to tell you, you need to write a sequel. But in this book, I got to tell you, for me, it's like reliving a great adventure. So I'm going to tell you, not only should anybody who is interested in history, but anybody who's interested in aviation, go to Amazon, look up Our Lives on the Line, the air war over North Vietnam, where a Navy pilot and his air wing, Kenneth Adams. And Ken, as we're getting close to the end of this segment, very quickly, I know the rules of war back then where the Johnson administration picked all the targets, and you had to fly by some really choice targets and hit nothing targets. How did you feel about that?
It was very frustrating, and especially, in '66 we weren't allowed to drop on the missile sites they were constructing, and of course the missile sites they constructed in '66 caused us a lot of losses in '67. So it was very silly, kind of the way that we conducted the war, and like they tried to tell us, how to fly in there. Well, what we decided that the shortest distance be in the shortest amount of time we were over the beach was going to give us our best chance of survival, because the longer you were over the beach, the more they were shooting at you. The more they were shooting at you, the better they had a chance of hitting you. So even though they had these complex routes they wanted us to fly, we just said, the heck with it. We'll go straight for the target, hit the target, and get the hell out. And which was that's a lot easier said than done in reality, but that's what we tried to achieve. But I watched Jeff Krummelhock, one of the guys that was my wingman, just die with a missile that was kind of aimed at me, just went right underneath me and hit him. And, it's those kinds of things you'll never.
I can only imagine, and as you know, I know Dave Carey very well, and Dave has been on my program. He was a POW, and when he talks about how he got shot down, that will basically scare you. I mean, it's quite a deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back into just a second with Ken Mule Adams, A4 pilot, U.S. Navy, VA 163. He was there in the air war of North Vietnam. We're going to tell you again about his book, Our Lives on the Line. It's a great book. You can get it on Amazon, written by Kenneth Mule Adams, and he had to be the Top Gun pilot of his day in the A4 over the skies of North Vietnam. So this is Jim Blythe and Diane Blythe, and we're going to be right back. And we are experiencing some technical difficulties with the phone system there in Florida. I guess it's too much sunshine. So we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're listening to Alliance for the Brave. We're here for you. Listen in on our affiliates throughout the United States. And thank you to our team. This is Alliance for the Brave. Ken, I wrapped that up promoting your book and talking about your book. And
okay.
Is your book in any bookstores? Has anybody got it in retail yet?
Not yet. I've got it published by another publisher, because the first one was published by Amazon. But the next one is published by Ingram. And so I need to get out there and just promote it to get it into some bookstores in the library.
Oh, well, if you want to come to Dallas, you just come on. We have a place for you and Betsy in our home. That way you don't have to stay in
Well, thank you.
And maybe by then. Now, I'm about to finish my BFR and going to be getting me training in my own plane. My son actually had the operation. It was a complete success, amazing success. And I'm so thankful for that. But you can come join us in the V-35, man.
Yeah, that's a cool airplane.
Oh, you're telling me?
So,
Yeah, he's a little sold on it.
Yeah.
Yes, I would think so.
I did my 4-night qualification landings Thursday night, and golly Moses, it was so gorgeous here in Dallas. It was beautiful. I mean to tell you, and that was so much fun.
So what are you going to cover in 6 minor minutes?
Yeah, we only got about 6 minor minutes. One of the things, Ken, that I always like to do in this last thing is talk about what would you say to a young man or woman that's interested in the military or is trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. So think about that for a second. So when we come back, we're going to do that.
Okay.
And again, let's promote your book, and then just very briefly say you left the Navy, you went on to be an airline pilot. You were also an accident investigator, a safety pilot, weren't you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we'll wrap that up and talk about what would you say to a young man or woman.
Okay.
And you're not flying anymore, though, if I understand correctly. Is that true?
No, what happened is the pacemaker I've got has got a implant for shooting you if you have a runaway, heart, and they don't allow that because, of course, it can temporarily put you out. So that's not illegal. Even though I don't need it.
Could you fly sport airplanes if you wanted to?
Nope.
Oh.
Yeah. No. No, it's capacity of discharge or whatever, something like that. My wife would know what the name of it is. But anyway, I had to have a pacemaker that would do pacing on both ventricles, both the left and right.
Okay.
And it only comes with this CDI, so it comes
all right,
with
here we
it.
go. We're going to be right back on the air in just a second, brother.
And wherever you are, you're coming through great.
So just keep hanging your foot out the window. Everything will be fine.
Yep, I'm going to just
While
stay right
holding
here.
a frying pan.
There you go.
You're listening to Alliance for the Brave, honoring, serving, and empowering those who serve our great country in the line of duty. Today's program is presented by Gear Services Web Design. Learn more about our mission and how you can plug in with us at allianceforthebrave.com. Now, back to the conversation.
Well, this is Jim Blythe, Navy veteran, and I'm about to bring this program back into the dock. I've had a tremendous opportunity to talk to a good friend, Ken Mule Adams. That was his call sign. I want to say a special thank you to Robin Valtudo, our executive director, our newest member of our family, Fred Norfolk. A special condolence to Atoya Mason. She lost her mother, and I'm sorry that that's been a tough deal, as well as London couldn't be with us today. So I got to tell you, this is a great team. Thank you for listening to us in Norfolk, Jacksonville, and Arizona, throughout the United States. Thank you for being part of Alliance for the Brave. Ken, you wrapped up your career in the Navy, and then you were an airline pilot for a while?
That's correct. I flew for Delta for 32 years, and which was a great job because I never thought of flying as a job. So if you can really like your job, I guess that's a wonderful thing to have. And I did. I really enjoyed my job.
And after you retired from Delta, which is Delta's ready when you are, except my bags used to go from San Diego to Atlanta, and it wouldn't stop in Dallas. I always had to wait the next day to get my bags back.
Oh, I know. There it goes. It's on its way to Atlanta.
Yeah.
The world revolves around Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. I want to close out, Ken, and ask you, because great military pilot, great airline pilot, thank you for your tremendous service. Thank you for this book, Our Lives on the Line. What would you say to a young man or woman that's interested in the military or just trying to figure out what are they going to do after college or after high school?
I think that the military right now has a lot of wonderful opportunities. Not only can you serve, and I think it really helps people mature, but it also will then give you a free college education afterward. And I mean, considering how expensive education is today, I mean that's a pretty good comeback, for the time that you spend in there. So be able to go ahead and move on with your life and even get further advanced than you are presently. And it's a real maturing thing to be in the military. The military puts a lot of pressures on younger people, and it makes you perform. And I think that's a very good thing to learn early in your life. And then after that, you just can continue on with that philosophy that you learned, and you will have a good, successful life.
All right, Ken, I always close my programs with a prayer. So if you join me, dear Lord, we thank you for our veterans and the service that they brought to our country and the service that they're doing today to further building our community. And thank you for our active duty military. Keep your arms wrapped around them, protect them as they go, as well as our medical first responders. God, we are so thankful for people who will step up to the line. We are thankful for those who always say, if not me, who? And they are there. So, Lord Jesus, thank you so very much for men like Ken Adams and all of our brothers in VA 163, the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. As we pray in Christ's name, amen. Well, Ken, this has been the most fun I've had in an interview in a long time.
Well, that's because it's a crazy guy talking to another crazy guy.
That's true.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, man, I had promised my wife that I wouldn't do aerobatics, but I was taught aerobatics by Grand National champions. So I will not fly a plane like you did, upside down and backwards. Trust me.
Well, probably not. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
You want to be here for a little while longer yet.
Well, yeah. You know, there are old pilots and there are bold pilots, and I'm a careful pilot. So I want to thank you again, Ken Adams, again. Go to Amazon, look at his book, Our Lives on the Line. This is a great, great story. It's a fabulous read. You're really going to enjoy it. If you got Hey, Jim, how do I get the book? And by golly, I'll help you. So the brave, we'll be back next week with great stories for you. Thank you for being part of our family.